Hello, my army of followers. Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks on YouTube. Yeah, I've actually got some subscribers. Almost, actually exactly 50 of them, which is quite exciting. I took down that Kurt Rosenwinkel video that didn't actually have anything to do with Kurt Rosenwinkel because the attention-seeking title was getting me the kind of attention which I was kind of flirting with by calling it that. And actually, it was some interesting posts. Some of the more invective-filled posts were actually the most interesting and the most useful. But anyway, I've taken it down because it's starting to annoy me, let alone anybody else. So on that basis, I'm going to be a little bit more well behaved on the titles because I've noticed that people are actually watching this now, and it's kind of like, in very small numbers, but they're still watching it. So it's like, oh, okay, I better, just in case it comes up in search engines and stuff, and people think, oh God, I've got to play with him next Wednesday. He looks like an absolute idiot. I mean, I might think that anyway, but I'm trying to minimise the possibility. So I took that one down. I might retitle it, stick it up again. I don't know. I'm in two minds. I'm also going through a big change in my technique, partly encouraged by one of the more abusive comments, weirdly. Anyway, I'll stop rambling and get on with it. So I said I wouldn't do any lessons, but I'm going to do a lesson now because this is kind of something which I've been using a lot. Again, it's something that's come up on the internet in discussions. People are saying, how do you play changes? How would you deal with a complicated tune like All the Things You Are, rhythm changes, where there's lots and lots of chords coming thick and fast? And this is what I've learnt really from teachers like Barry Harris, but also, out my own kind of steam. And I've also been looking into how professional jazz musicians think, and I think a lot of them kind of think this way. I'm sure that some teachers at some of the conservatoires are kind of teaching like this kind of stuff as well. I didn't go to music college, so I can't say for sure. I think it depends who you're taught by. There are some people I think who teach this kind of material as well, and people who go through that say that they find it enormously helpful. So I'm giving this to you for nothing, and it's really helped me. You might question how much it's helped me, depending on whether or not you like my playing, but I can only present that in the light of, this is something I've found useful, and other people seem to find it useful too. So I'll press ahead. So we're going to take rhythm changes as an example. Now, rhythm changes in B flat kind of is often played this way. It goes B flat major 7th. Oh, am I actually in tune? Not really, but we'll have to go with it. Okay. B flat major 7th, G minor 7th, C minor, F7, and then D minor, G7, C minor, F7, and then it's usually F minor 7th, B flat 7, E flat major 7th, and then A flat 7, possibly with the sharp 11, and then B flat major 7th, G7, C minor, F7. Okay, and there are millions of variations on this. One of the classic ones for swing would be B flat, B diminished 7th, C minor, C sharp diminished, B flat over D, D flat diminished, C minor, F7, and then B flat 7, and then we go E flat 7, E half diminished, and so on. So the whole thing. Or maybe. Hopefully you'll agree it has a much more kind of swing sound to this one, which is kind of more bebopping. Partly the way I'm playing it, but there's something about that harmony which makes me want to play it in a more modern kind of way, and so on. So there's loads of different variations of the set changes, which used to confuse the bejesus out of me because I would be going, what do I do over the E diminished? But then the E flat minor isn't really a good sound over an E diminished, or so I thought at the time. How can I make this all match up? Excuse me. And what I actually understood in the end is that it doesn't matter. A lot of these chords are decorating chords, so although it's cool to play them when you're comping and you can employ different variations, when you're blowing, when you're soloing, or indeed when you're kind of basing your chordal comping and your substitutions, for other people soloing, you can really simplify it down. And the form that normally takes is we normally just chuck out everything apart from the simplest chords. And usually what it boils down to is 1, 5. You can use a 4/7 chord or a 4 major, and you've got like a flat 7. And then if you've got those chords, that's basically all you need, which is the kind of chords you get in the blues, apart from the flat 7, which is kind of like a backdoor dominant. Be thinking about that more later. So in the case of rhythm changes, I mean, that means basically chucking out the 6 chords, the 2 chords in the progression. For example, for this bit, the G minor is kind of the same as a B flat with a different bass note, really. I mean, especially if you play B flat 6. And then this can be just thought of as a F7 chord, so you can just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then even though you've got this, you can play that if you like, but we can play that, doesn't really matter. So let's just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, B flat, F7, and then we go B flat 7, so instead of, we just play B flat 7, and then instead of going, we're actually just going to play E flat 7, which might seem a bit weird, but that is, that stands in quite well for that kind of movement. So that brings us back to the tonic. I mean, you could also play, if you wanted, A flat 7, but for the moment we're going to use E flat 7, so that's linked to this, that kind of move, which is a bit like, the bars 5 to 6 of jazz blues. So really what we're left with is B flat major, F7, B flat major, F7, B flat 7, and then we go E flat 7, and then B flat major, F7. And the second time round that would probably be swapped around, those last 2 bars would be F7, B flat, right? Which is something that people sometimes miss when they play AABA tunes or rhythm changes. Anyway, so that's quite simple. It sounds a bit rubbish though, to be fair. But what I have to explain, is that you're not just thinking about this as a vanilla, boring old F7 shape. You're thinking about it as a whole complex of possibilities. So even within the Mixolydian mode, we have these different, if I stack it up in thirds. It's a good thing to do. So it's worth knowing where all these notes are. And if you boil that down, what you've got is F major, you've got A flat diminished, these are just the triads, you've got C minor, you've got F major, and you've got D minor. Sorry, C. What's the next one? Talking rubbish, it's G minor. Anyway, so that's like F7, F major, A diminished triad, C minor, and you've got E flat major, not F major, sorry, I'm talking rubbish, E flat major, and then D minor. Another way of looking at it from the point of view of the key is you've got like 5, you've got 7 diminished, you've got 4, you've got 2, of course, so you've even got like a 6th chord that you can use, and if you stretch these out into like 7th chords, you've got, and all of those options sound better than just playing the dominant on its own. And that's even without thinking about things like tritone substitutes and altered scales and stuff like that, which you can also use. So you've got a lot of possibilities for those F7. So what we're saying is, even though we're just saying that's an F7, that's the function of the chord, you've got a whole range of exploded possibilities, right? If you study the Barry Harris method, for example, or you look at the David Baker books, there's loads of little patterns and things that you can sort of learn, and you can work them into lines, you can transcribe material, work on that. One of my favourite moves that I noticed in Charlie Parker was going, that kind of thing. That kind of thing. So that's not. What's that from? Oh yeah, that's That's Fried Bananas by Dexter Gordon. So he uses that, but he probably got it from Charlie Parker. So you know that what that is, that's me going E flat major, E minor 6. So I'm kind of using a backdoor substitute as well, which is another substitute. So you've got all the different things. If you're a devotee of Pat Martino, you might think about that as a minor. You might think we're just going D minor instead of F7, and you might think of that as like maybe a G minor. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you know you can do that if I play like pentatonic scales based on that. It sounds kind of cool, you know. We could think of D minor, which is another substitute. And you've got all these options. So if I just kind of give you an idea of how I might go about that, it's like start off on maybe B flat major or one of its related chords, such as G minor or D minor. Maybe I'll try and do it a little bit faster if my chops are up to it today. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, so I feel like I've got a lot of freedom there. Yeah, it's nice. That's good. So, I mean, it probably sounds a lot more complex. I'm superimposing a lot of these different possibilities on each other. But the basis of what I'm doing is really simple. You know, it's kind of just that. It's just B flat, F minor. So that's basically how I'm thinking, really, and that goes to the B section there a little bit. It's nice if you sometimes you can turn that into a G7 flat 9, so you can play 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start with a B flat, go to an F7, then go to a G7 flat 9, so which is the same thing as a back door. So we're going to think of this as a B flat 7, weirdly. So we're going to play this kind of scale, then raise the root, which you might notice it might have seen in my other video, like a 20-minute bebop lesson video. Okay, so let's do it nice and slow so I don't get it wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I spent a little bit too long on that G. This is not something I generally do, so I'm kind of practicing it myself right now. Let's see. And then it would be that sounded pretty hip, I thought. So let's try it. Let's try it again. That's going somewhere. So then maybe, you know, we could use a tritone instead of going that. We go. So you've got a lot of options. I mean, one of the nice ones is actually to use so we can use the flat 7 sub of the tritone. We can actually use a D major to get into that E flat. So but let's try it. So we're going to go it'd be that. So even though we're just limited to these kind of basic chord functions, there's nothing limited about what we play over the top. We just learn a shed load of material that works on these simple 5-1 things, right? So that's fair enough in rhythm changes. I think most experienced jazz musicians realise that, you know, you can simplify rhythm changes even down to the point just saying it's basically B flat for a bit and then either E flat 7 or E flat minor. So I think that's kind of common knowledge among people who are kind of, you know, experienced players. I mean, like a lot of the swing players would play, you know, over rhythm changes, maybe something like this. That's kind of how Charlie Christian would approach it. I just think the whole thing is B flat and then it goes a bit bluesy and like bar bar 5, 6, you know, which is kind of a very generalised idea of the changes, but it's like a lower level of detail, whereas we're taking a slightly higher, slightly more bebop-y level of detail. But, you know, however you view it, you can just build your own stuff over the top and it will sound great. In some ways, kind of some of the more modal players are kind of doing the same thing that the swing guys are, only instead of playing maybe over a B-flat chord, they might play, you know, they might just play over the isolated, you know, F7 and maybe a bass. So I'll be doing that in the bass and we go over the top. Maybe resolve at some point, but you know, you can carry that on for as long as you can. So I want to give you the idea that there's different like sliders you can slide up and down for different levels of kind of complexity within the tune. Anyway, let's move on to All the Things You Are, which is a deceptively simple tune in that there's not many chords in it really, even though on the face of it you think, oh, there's lots of chords. There are lots of key changes, but basically most of it can be boiled down to either 5-1 or flat 7-1 in various keys. So I'm going to just take the first A section and instead of playing it in the customary way, these are the changes they normally would be. So it's like F minor, B flat minor, E flat 7, A flat round the cycle, D flat continuing round the cycle, and then you go up a semitone to D half diminished, G7 round the cycle, C. Okay? It's good to know your cycles. So that's great, but obviously when we're playing our solos, that's a lot of chords. If you start following them around, it can be a bit much. There's nothing wrong with that. And then, you know, that's all cool. It even sounds quite nice, but I think it's nice to have a bit more freedom, especially if it's fast. So the way I would play the changes on this would be A flat 7, D, A flat 7, sorry, E flat 7 for 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, it's like Muskrat Ramble. Okay, there we go. Stay on the A flat with the D flat, that'll work fine, and then we do a backdoor, which will be B flat 7 into B diminished 7th if you like, and then into C major. So that's like a surprise modulation to major, okay? Because that chord would normally be C minor in that key. So it's if you want to be fancy, it's a TS to Picardy almost, okay? So I'm gonna solo over that, and hopefully you'll hear that even though I'm not actually thinking about all the changes and just really the sort of basic functions of the chords, I can play something which actually sounds like the changes. Excuse me, maybe not if I do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what you've got to take my word on is that I'm not really thinking too much about the changes. Perhaps a bit more in the second half. The second half would be, might do that again. The second half would be E flat, B flat 7, E flat 7, E flat, and then F7. So I'll play like this, 1, 2, 3. Which is a hell of a lot easier, really, to be honest. Another example, Moment's Notice, I'm working on at the moment. That is, first bit is A7. So, by the way, anytime we see a minor 2-5-1, I've mentioned this in the 20 minutes bebop video, but anytime you see a minor 2-5 going into any chord, whether it's minor, major, dominant, whatever it is, you always take that as a backdoor dominant. So in this case, in the last few bars of All the Things You Are, you have D flat major, and then this backdoor going. And it might actually be written that way in some charts. then we have this diminished chord here, which I play as a side step when I'm soloing, so it sounds a bit more boppy. If you play that diminished, it sounds a bit more old school swing, which is fine too, but it depends what kind of gig you're doing. You know, what sound you prefer, maybe even. So that's cool, but I mean, if we have like the example of a minor 2-5-1, for example, in this next tune, which I'm going to do moment's notice, you'll see what I'll do to that in a second. I'll turn it into a back door. Anyway, let's move on and show you how that works. So the chords, as I understand them, you can look up the real book chords, but this is basically what I solo on. A flat 7, sorry, A7, beg your pardon, A7, B flat 7, and then it goes to E flat major, B flat 7, and then G7, A flat 7, D flat 7. And then we get this, normally it's 2-5-1, but we just want to go back door here. So we go B flat 7, and then C minor, and then we'll go to E flat 7 here, A flat major, D flat 7, right? C7, D flat 7, and then G flat major, and then B flat, and then E flat. So when I solo the first bit, it actually becomes not too bad. Anyway, I could have probably put in that. That's probably a chord which I probably should have included that. I missed out, but like I say, it's a bit of a work in progress. I haven't really done this to this particular tune before, but hopefully you can appreciate that it does make things a bit simpler, because you're just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, you know, what happens next? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds pretty ugly on its own. Like I say, you can base chords, you know, based around the basic functions, but that kind of thing, much more embellished. So I saw that's quite ugly, but you get the idea. It's like, you know, or even so, you know, that's basically thinking of the functions. I think of all those chords as being sort of embellishments over the top, if that makes any sense. There's some tunes that it doesn't really help with, like Giant Steps it doesn't really help with, because Giant Steps is just super compacted already at the start. You know, there's this business. There is no reduction you can make of that. You can turn that bit into just a D7, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and then let's knock out the twos. It does make it a bit easier, but then it doesn't really come to terms with the bit that's hard, which is this bit, you know. And so on. Okay, so it's kind of you know, irreducible. But you know, for a lot of tunes it does work actually, and it's always worth giving it a go and seeing if you can get anything out of it. And I found it helps a lot for my own soloing. And a cat has just entered the room, so I suppose that means I have to finish the video. Anyway, I hope you found it useful and enjoyed it, and take care. Bye.